These quarterfinals, like the rest of the tournament really, have delivered. I've really been loving the tournament in general, so thank you to football for providing the entertainment. I'm Adrian, and let's get into the review. With no Xhaka, Zakaria was the man to replace him in the midfield, and he would have an unfortunate start in this match. Switzerland were actually doing extremely well in the early exchanges as they were getting men forward and looked organized in the attack, but on one of Spain's only attacks in the first 7 or 8 minutes, an innocuous strike from Jordi Alba took a massive deflection off of Zakaria and went in. The 10th own goal of the match, and it was unfortunate given how it came out of nowhere for these Swiss players that were controlling the match fairly well up until that point. Then you find yourself down a goal in the first 10 minutes, and that changes everything. By the way, at that point, Spain's top scorer in the tournament was Mr. Own Goal, and it still is. And the Swiss misfortune continued a bit as Breel Embolo was forced off after 22 minutes with an injury, so it was everything going wrong at once for Switzerland, a true uphill battle. As Spain were dominating the ball in their classic style, 66% possession after 45 minutes, over 300 passes, the Swiss would have to continue to be patient and push the Spanish out wide, as they were trying to do, as they backed themselves to deal with the balls into the box. And you know what? They dealt with them for the most part. And while Spain continued to control the possession, Switzerland weren't afraid to push numbers forward when they would get the opportunity to attack. After an hour or so of football, a Switzerland counter saw Vargas and Zuber combine down the left flank, with Zuber forcing a good save from Simon from close range, and that was the first save that Simon had to make in the match. But the danger signs were there, and the Swiss drew level shortly after. They deserved it. They really do look fantastic going forward, don't they? I mean, there was a bit of an error at the back as Pau Torres and Laporte had a mix-up. I mean, I said they looked bad with Pau Torres next to Laporte in the preview, and Freuler squared to Shaqiri, and he rolled it in off of the post. Great finish. I gotta say, though, to be fair to Pau Torres and Laporte, they looked pretty good together prior to the goal. Again, with the numbers that Switzerland were getting forward, I mean, Freuler, a central midfielder, latching onto that ball in the box, says all that you need to know. What did you guys think of the red card that Freuler got, by the way? He absolutely went in hard. He still got the ball, but man, it was a challenge that didn't really need to be made, I guess, by Freuler. You could argue that. Unfortunate, but again, we have to forget all of the nonsense like intent, Stephen Caldwell, and whether he got the ball or not. Michael Oliver would have said that he went in with excessive force and he could have endangered his opponent's safety, and that, I guess, ticks the boxes for a red. I guess the unfortunate or frustrating aspect for Freuler is that not all referees would call that. Plenty would have just given him a yellow, but at least the referees have been relatively consistent with it in the last couple of matches, I guess. I don't know. It seems like it's something new that they've been cracking down on, this excessive force thing. But to be fair to Switzerland, the red didn't change things too drastically for them. They still defended well, and they still pushed players forward to attack. Unfortunate that they lost Shaqiri and Seferovic to tactical changes, due to the red card, but they still fought out the 90 minutes admirably, and of course extra time. Speaking of which, Morata gets a lot of flack for his missed opportunities, but Moreno isn't much better in front of goal, as shown a few minutes into extra time. He absolutely should have put Spain ahead when he missed from 6 yards out with Sommer at his mercy, but he shinned it wide. From there, it was no fault of the Spanish attackers for not scoring, as all credit could go to Jan Sommer, who made save after save, 10 saves in this match, or Rodriguez with his incredible block on Llorente in the second half of extra time. I mean, it was an onslaught with Thiago coming on for Pau Torres. Spain really pushed for the winner, and I wonder if their terrible penalty record was sort of playing on their minds a little bit. We'll see. After a very unfortunate own goal in Spain's favor and a red card to Freuler, the Swiss had the right to feel hard done by in this match, and for all of their work, they deserved a shot at advancing in the shootout, and, Embolo going off after 22 minutes as well. And as per the Spanish script, they missed their first penalty via Busquets. Luckily for them, Char's penalty was extremely casual and saved, put into sweet spot for keepers, and with Simon jumping the right way, he saved it. Sommer saved against Rodri, Simon saved against Akanji, and after 3 penalties, it was 1 goal apiece. In the end, Vargas skied his penalty, and Oyarzabal converted his to send Spain through, but my goodness, will that have ever left a bitter taste in the mouths of the Swiss. An own goal, Embolo going off injured after 22 minutes, a red card, and then a penalty shootout loss. Football really is a cruel sport, isn't it? Italy and Belgium facing off is another one of those, there should be a final matches, isn't it? And boy did it ever deliver. This Italian team did exactly what Portugal could not in the round of 16, cut through Belgium's old defense and finish off their chances to win 2-1. Big shout out to Italy, who once again looked like the best team in the tournament. The match started with the good news for Belgium that KDB would be included, but Hazard didn't even make the bench. So Jeremy Doku of Rennes started in his place. I think it was safe to say that Doku was not only a decent replacement for Eden Hazard, who hasn't hit his peak in a long time, due to injury of course, but Doku was likely the most dangerous player on the pitch for Belgium. He was constantly turning defenders inside out, often getting the better of Di Lorenzo cutting inside, and of course, winning a penalty. Where do you guys stand on this one? Because this is how I see it. First of all, thankfully it didn't have an effect on the match in the end. Second, Di Lorenzo did not go shoulder to shoulder with Doku as he shoved off of the Belgian with his forearm. Once you get your forearm out there, it's no longer shoulder to shoulder. If it was shoulder to shoulder, no foul. But as soon as you do a shoving motion with your forearm, you're forcing the referee to make a decision. And, you know, the penalty isn't as cut and dry as an obvious hack in the box, but it's still a foul. It would get called a cynical foul in the middle of the pitch, so it's a penalty. One of those, well, technically the rules state kind of penalties, meaning it's right on the edge, but I guess still a penalty in the eyes of the referee. So Doku was no doubt the high point for Belgium as their attack stuttered, even with Lukaku and De Bruyne on the pitch. Lukaku was unable to finish off his chances, a great block by Spinazzola at one point, and then he aired the second attempt. I mean, it looks as if Lukaku was going to be a danger man all game, as early in the match, he spun his defender, can't remember if it was Chiellini or Bonucci, and nearly got a shot off, if not for Donnarumma coming to collect the ball. But credit to Bonucci and Chiellini, as for the rest of the match, they pretty much iced him out. And with that said, let's talk about Italy now. Spinazzola. Oh, I feel so bad for this man. Another great performance from him, just as he has been fantastic all tournament long, only to pull up lame with a suspected hamstring injury from all of us armchair doctors who were watching on. But according to some reports, he has apparently ruptured his Achilles tendon. That's horrible, as he is out for the tournament and likely out of football for 7 months, possibly plus. I'd recommend checking out 3CB Performance on YouTube, as he has a video on that injury and what his recovery will look like. I've linked to it below. Witsel was able to recover in a ridiculous amount of time from his ruptured Achilles, but according to Dr. Raj from 3CB, he was an outlier. So that's a shame for him, as Emerson will likely take over his duties. As for the other parts of the pitch, the center backs were fantastic for Italy. Both Insigne and Chiesa were great, and I really think Chiesa did enough to stake his claim as a starter in the semi-final against Spain. He was great going forward, combining well with Di Lorenzo down the right, and making sure he was disciplined enough to track back and help Di Lorenzo with Thorgan Hazard and Doku. The midfield looked as good as ever. What more does Jorginho have to do to get some respect around here? The man was constantly breaking up attacks, pushing the play forward. I mean, he's a rock back there. And his cover allows the likes of Verratti and Barella to shine going forward, just as Barella did when scoring the opening goal for Italy. The goal that was so good, it cured whatever injury it was Immobile had. Lying on the deck and then up on his feet celebrating after a moment. And Insigne, no doubt his best performance of the tournament. Of course, scoring a goal such as that helps the claim, but in general, I thought he was great on the ball. His passing was much better, and like Chiesa, he was tracking back to help in defense. If there was one weak point for Italy, I'd say that it would have been Immobile, as he had it probably his worst game of the tournament thus far, and just looked lost on the pitch. But beyond that, the Italians were great, Donnarumma as well. I mean, I almost forgot about him. He made a couple of great saves, such as that one on Kevin De Bruyne, where he sprung to his right brilliantly to get a big paw on it. For such a big guy, he moves so quickly in the air. But again, this Italian side just looks so good with how they play. They can do both as well. They can counter against teams who play with a high line, and they're good enough at moving the ball against a team that sits deep that they can generate opportunities. Their movement off the ball is dynamic and is possession with purpose. I have not seen an Italian team like this before, man. As for Belgium, I don't love Martinez's tactics that he employs with this gifted Belgian side. Gifted, but in dire need of some younger defenders. It just feels like such a shame to have so many players sit behind the ball in a 5-2-2-1 formation when defending, and I wonder if the 2022 World Cup will be a bridge too far for them now, or if they'll give it one more go. But regardless, there are better teams out there who play a better brand of football than the Belgians, and so it's nice to see one of them win today in Italy. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the end of Martinez's time with Belgium, even though his contract runs through next year's World Cup. But that's it from me. How much are you looking forward to Italy taking on Spain in the semifinals? Unlucky Switzerland. Better luck next time, Belgium. But this is the semifinal that I think most of us wanted to see when the bracket was set for this side of the tournament. Thanks as always for watching, guys. A like goes a long way, but a dislike is also acceptable if you hated this video and it offended you. My name is Adrian. This is Rabona TV, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.